Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 200 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I kind of can't believe it's episode 200 and that I've been doing this podcast on my own now for 3 years. It's absolutely amazing. And this week I'm going to be talking about emotional reasons why you aren't hungry, physical reasons why you aren't hungry, and easy ways to stabilize your hunger. So in episode 198, I talked about the opposite, emotional and physical reasons why you are hungry. And so, of course, as promised, today, that is what I will be sharing with you. So I wanted to share a word of the week this week. Sometimes I like to bring in just, something to add a lightness or just a power word that can maybe help you to inspire your week. And I encourage you to actually do the same and to pick something that just feels like it's going to help to inspire you and pick you up and make you excited for your week. So my word this week is gratitude, because I'm so grateful and thankful for having the space to create and, record these podcasts for all of you beautiful people every week. I'm so grateful and thankful for all the people who reach out and, share and open up about their struggles and their stories and, seek support or sign up for coaching or even just have a conversation. I'm, feeling very grateful and thankful for my new website, and I'm grateful and thankful and super excited for some new projects and an online program that I'm just starting to work on that I can't wait to share with you guys. I'm so grateful and thankful for my family, for my boyfriend, for my business, for some really exciting opportunities that I have coming up in the next few weeks that I will share with you as it gets closer. And I'm so grateful and thankful for my beautiful body and for her being my vessel to be able to do everything and be healthy and, create everything that I am in my life. So, and of course, I'm grateful and thankful for all of you who listen. So I'd love for you to take a moment and express your own gratitudes, because I just think that it lightens up the day and it brings in this, sense of happiness and excitement. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned to the show notes at the end of the episode, because I'm going to be sharing some exciting announcements, including a giveaway to celebrate episode 200. So again, the show notes are now at the end of each episode so that I can get into the meat or the dish of this podcast sooner. So I will dive right in. Like I always say, if you're finding a specific eating style isn't working for you, you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues, inflammation, perhaps you suspect your hormones or your hunger levels are off, perhaps self-care continues to be a problem for you and your weight is just seeming like this battle that is never ending, well, you are in the right place, my friends, because these are all of the topics I'm going to continue to talk about, diving into the habits and mindsets to set you on a different path. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So let's first talk about emotional reasons you are hungry, because again, or why you aren't hungry rather, because I really think that there are lots of emotional reasons that can, pull down, this hunger levels. And there's also the physical. So I'm going to start with the emotional and then I will transition into physical reasons. So One of the first reasons why I see, my clients or just people I talk to, and even, my own personal experience in the past of why I wasn't hungry was stress response or fight or flight. So what ends up happening here is you experience some form of a negative stressor, whether it's like anger, frustration, irritation, sadness, maybe something sad's happened, maybe you've lost a loved one, maybe you've had to move cities or just something has happened for you and you're feeling a lot of heavier emotions. So what ends up happening is when we go into that stress mode or that fight or flight mode, you end up going into just that. It is a stress response. So when you're in that stress response, you have to think of this programming we've had since the caveman days. It's a primal instinct because the body thinks when you're in stress mode, oh, there must be a bear or a saber-toothed tiger or some big animal coming around to threaten you. So what does it do? It shuts down the digestive system and all the circulation that's normally in your core, in your digestive region, actually goes out into your arms and legs, into your limbs to help you run away or to protect yourself. This is only meant to be a short-term response for a few minutes to help you run away or again to protect from being attacked. And so what happens is, usually in those moments when you're experiencing that high stress, you don't want to go and eat a big meal. You're like, I'm just not hungry right now, maybe later. And I've had many, especially more experiences in my past where I'd get really worked up and really emotional, didn't know how to deal with stress. And I'd get so upset and I was not hungry at all. In fact, sometimes I would get so upset and worked up that I'd end up giving myself a stomach ache. And that doesn't happen anymore. But I think that is, one way that we can have, a negative impact on our digestion and again, to shut digestion down. So that is definitely a way that, you may notice if that's happening to you regularly and you have lots of stress regularly, you may not feel as hungry or experience your hunger hormones as clearly as if you, again, had just like maybe a more balanced lifestyle, less stress, feeling more, positive thoughts and emotions, things like that. So another one that ties into this is if you've just had an argument or a fight with somebody, or again, a really stressful conversation, the same kind of thing happens where we go into that fight or flight mode, the digestion, again, it shuts down. I mean, it's still gonna move food through, but oftentimes this is, when we're in this heightened state of stress and we eat, that's why I see more people end up with like diarrhea or really loose stools, or they get really bloated or a lot of pain because, again, the body is going, I'm not focused on digestion right now. I'm focused on trying to protect you in this fight or flight response. So that definitely, can have a huge impact on your appetite levels and the way you digest and break down your food and your current state of digestion. The goal here is, when you're in a calm state, your body's in rest and digest mode, and that's when it's a lot easier for you to break down your food and your appetite levels are going to be more present. You're far more likely to get a hunger signal that you're actually hungry and then a signal that you're full, instead of those being skewed or just it being very confusing as far as, what's going on. So definitely, I really encourage you that if you're experiencing a lot of stress on a regular basis, it's so important to address those stressors and have healthy ways to deal with them and have, regular dedicated time to do self-care to help you with those pieces. And I'll talk more about that when I get to point 3. I often as well find that overbooked schedules, feeling too busy, feeling like you don't have time to eat because you have to, achieve certain tasks or meet certain deadlines at work and you feel overwhelmed. So you're just going, I'll just eat later. That is a huge way to reduce your hunger levels because there's a component of stress there. So everything I've just talked about. B, your body's not used to fueling it regularly. So it automatically starts to, again, kind of skew or not produce those hunger hormones properly, which I will talk about the hunger hormones right away. And when if you're in a people-pleasing mindset and you don't take the time to take your lunch break or any breaks to nourish your body, or you're often like, you commit going, I'm going to take my lunch break today, but then you work through your whole lunch and you forget to eat, that is going to have a negative impact on your regular appetite and hunger levels. So again, I just think it's so important that we're taking the time to slow down, to check in with ourselves, and to block off that sacred time. Like you legally, in any business I know or company, like you legally get a lunch break, and you usually legally also get some other breaks as well. It's just that it's a people-pleasing mentality, or feeling guilty or feeling bad, thinking you're going to be judged if you take a break, which again, that's all to do with your own inner insecurities and limiting beliefs. And it's so important to work on those things and overcome them so you can, honor and take care of your body, because, without your health and your body, how could you take care of all these tasks and deadlines for whomever you're working for, if you're working for yourself, right? So I think it's so important that we really start to look at our body as this beautiful vessel in which we live that allows us to live the life we want and do what we want. And it's so important to fuel and nourish our bodies regularly, properly, so that they can do what we want them to do. So another one I find is a big reason why people aren't hungry, and I've kind of touched on this already, but is feeling emotions like sad, angry, or upset, because it shuts down the digestion. It puts you into that fight or flight mode. And now if we look at some reasons that are a bit more tied to like body image and emotional eating, I often find, if someone is feeling that they have gained weight, or they have overeaten, emotionally eaten, indulged, binged, whatever you feel resonates for you, then often I find people will want to punish themselves for overindulging or gaining weight. And then they may take appetite suppressants or take pills or prescriptions that are going to, mess with the natural state of your body and shut down your appetite levels. So I don't think that that's a healthy way to deal with emotional eating or, gaining weight or binging. I think that's a Band-Aid. You're not actually dealing with the root causes of the issue, which are the self-worth, your overbooked schedule, certain physical symptoms, body insecurities, worthiness, being a people pleaser, being too busy, whatever those things are that are fueling the emotional eating for you. I don't believe appetite suppressants or any kind of prescription drug is going to resolve that for you, because what happens when you stop taking it and you haven't dealt with all your stuff, and then you start doing it again, or again, you're taking that, but you still have the urge to want to emotionally eat. I don't think a pill, I think it's just a quick fix. That's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But I really do believe things like that are just quick fixes. I think it's just so important that, we open up to take the dedicated time to do the work, to deal with the emotional eating, the binge eating, the body image issues. And again, dedicating the time to nourish your body, to do self-care, to de-stress, and to work through your emotions. And if you're like, well, I feel so overwhelmed with all this, I don't know where to start, there's so much there's so much information out there that I'm just so confused and overwhelmed, and I don't even know where to, focus, that's where I do encourage people to reach out and get support. So if you are ready to invest in your health, reach out and book a 30-minute body freedom consultation. We can talk about all of these struggles and what your goals are and where you're seeking support. If you're currently working with someone, great. But I just think it's at this point, if it's something you've been struggling with for years, I would encourage you to get support, because if you've tried all these different diets and pills and things and they have not worked, to me, it's just such a sign that a deeper level of support is needed. So if you're punishing or you're using quick fixes to try to suppress your appetite levels, definitely suggest that, we look at getting to the root causes so that you don't end up kind of suppressing, but then when you stop, you go back to old habits and it just gets worse. Another reason why you may not be hungry is that, you're restricting calories to lose weight. You're sticking to really low calorie diets, and that can reduce appetite levels because of metabolism. And I'm going to talk about metabolism more in the physical reasons you aren't hungry. But again, I find this need to restrict or stick to a low calorie diet. That's emotional. That's body image insecurities. That's a need to look a certain way. It's attaching your worth to a number or a clothing size, again, which to me just is not part of self-love or self-respect. So it is so important to work on self-worth, to work on building, feeling good enough, learning how to love and respect your body and love and respect food and have a mindful relationship with food, which is going to help to support really great physical hunger levels. But we have to deal with the emotional hunger. If we don't deal with the emotional hunger, then it honestly usually just fuels these vicious cycles of restriction and dieting and then binging or overeating and all the other physical imbalances that can come along with it. And then what I often find is when people are in this vicious cycle, they get really hard on themselves. You may be denying yourself of nourishment, which is like denying yourself of life, because nourishment gives you life. But because you're not a certain weight, or you want a flat stomach, or you need to look a certain way, or you overate, or you feel guilty for eating quote unquote what you thought was a bad food, so now you need to be hard on yourself and be a negative self-talk, like that's gonna, for some people shut their hunger down because they're in this fight or flight state again, whilst for others that could actually make you more hungry and trigger you to want to emotionally eat even more. So this one can kind of go both ways, when you're getting hard on yourself, denying yourself of nourishment. And then, like I said, for some people, they're going way the other way and they're binging and overeating. And for others, they are really restricting. So I think it's very important to recognize if any of that resonates with you. There's definitely other, reasons, but I just wanted to highlight some of these because I see these all the time with the people I work with, and I used to experience them as well. And I definitely know when I would binge and then the next day I would literally try to not eat all day and starve myself and try to just have a salad for dinner to compensate and make up to it. I definitely noticed my appetite level started to go all over the place. Sometimes I'd be so ridiculously hungry, and then other times it would just disappear. And I'm going to talk more about thyroid here right away, but I really noticed when, I was still stuck in my food addiction, kind of toward the end of it when I was starting to recover, but my hormones were just a complete disaster. My appetite levels, those hunger cues just completely disappeared. And a lot of that was also physical. So now I'm going to go to physical reasons you aren't hungry. So these are very common, and people don't even realize that they're innocently doing things to sabotage their hunger hormones and their hunger levels. And so that's why I was really excited to talk to you guys about this today, because I just think that we're like by accidentally, innocently doing all the wrong things and ending up, with these results that don't serve our health, well-being, or our bodies. So the first thing is thyroid imbalance, especially that underactive thyroid, because your thyroid is like your furnace. It's a huge part of your metabolism. And, when we are in this vicious cycle of restriction and binging, emotional eating, restricting calories, restrictive diets, skipping meals, missing breakfast, high stress, chances are you probably have cortisol levels that are out of balance. That's the stress hormone. And you probably also then have a thyroid imbalance. So when your metabolism slows down, of course, the amount of energy your body is burning and using goes down. And so therefore your caloric needs go down and appetite levels can reduce. And I often do see a combination of high cortisol impacting and interfering with the thyroid function. And a lot of clients share with me that, especially when we're first starting the journey, that they don't ever feel hungry. And so part of that is because their thyroid's already been underactive and they don't even know it. And maybe you have been to your doctor and gotten it tested and the doctor says it looks good, but it's a huge range. And I often find a lot of my clients are having symptoms, in quote unquote, what is the normal range. So I just think it's so important to listen to your body and pay attention to those symptoms, because you should be having hunger signals, when you wake up and get your day started and going through your day between meals, when you're getting hungry, you should not get those feelings, and you should not get a feeling of feeling full. So when the thyroid starts to become underactive and the metabolism slows down, we're not producing as much ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone that makes you or signals that you're hungry. And then we, end up just like, okay, well, I'm not hungry, so I shouldn't eat. But the problem with that is when you're then going, well, I'm not hungry, so I'm not going to eat. That actually can have a negative impact again on your body, because now you're restricting because you don't feel hungry, and that puts the body into fight or flight, into that stress mode, and you produce more cortisol. And then that has a negative impact on the thyroid, because that can, again, when you're in that fight or flight, your body is inflamed and in a state of stress. And so that can impact the thyroid. And then the other thing that can happen is when the adrenal glands, which produce cortisol, start to get really tired of overproducing cortisol 24/7, they have to start to compensate and take hormones from other, endocrine glands in the body. And so the body will start to steal thyroid hormones to convert into cortisol. And then again, you start to see the thyroid go underactive, and you start to see the appetite levels decline. So there's this whole hormone piece that I'm going to just keep it basic today, but that's a huge part of it. And then again, when you're skipping breakfast, you're skipping meals throughout the day because you don't feel hungry, or you think you need to fast, or like be on a certain diet, or this person's doing it, so I'm going to do it because they're losing weight. But it's to understand that your current state of health and your unique set of circumstances for your health and well-being are completely different than the next person. And I personally don't recommend fasting or skipping meals, because for most of my clients, their blood sugar's out of whack, their metabolism is slow, they have these hormone imbalances, they're emotionally eating, and restricting more is only stressing out the body more and making all of this worse. So I find it's very important, even if you aren't hungry, to start to eat a small breakfast, to make sure you're eating regularly through the day. You're having some snacks in between meals, because that's actually going to help to wake up your appetite levels, get those hunger hormones going. It's going to support your metabolism as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as I go along, but I just think this is such an important part. So again, to touch back on the hunger hormones, ghrelin is produced to make you feel hungry. Leptin is produced to decrease your appetite or to signal that you're getting full. So they both play a role in your metabolism, your weight. And so often for people, when they have higher levels of leptin, again, that's great because it's helping you to signal you're full. So I often find, when people are emotionally eating, they're binging, they're gaining weight, they're feeling out of control with their appetite levels, their cravings, and their body. This is where ghrelin levels to make you hungry can stay more elevated. And it just feels like you can't stop eating, and you're producing less leptin to make you feel full, which makes you just feel like you could keep eating, versus when you overcome emotional eating and you regulate your appetite levels and you're eating really great nourishing meals and snacks regularly to support, a healthy relationship with food. These hunger hormone levels balance, and you get more consistent hunger signals, and you get a more consistent signal when you're full. And actually, this helps with regulating weight or helping you to let go of protection. So I think it's so important to understand how important it is to have a healthy relationship with food, because it plays a huge role on the way your body's metabolism is working, your hormones, and these hunger hormones. And this is huge. I remember when I was binge eating, it was like I'd binge, and then the next day I felt like I could eat like 3 or 4 times more. And there's an interesting stat that talked about every time you overeat, you increase your chances of overeating even 30 to 40% more in your next meal. And that's because, again, the body has these primal instincts, and you're programmed from the caveman days. And when you were out in the caveman world foraging around and you found a bush of berries, or you were able to, hunt an animal, you ate as much as you could. And then because you didn't know when you get your next meal. And so you overate. You stored what you needed to as fat to help you survive, and you tried to eat as much as you could, and then the body would go, oh, okay, we're getting this feast on right now. We don't know when the famine's going to come, so we're going to try to actually increase the appetite level so you can eat more and store more to survive. Now, obviously, in modern day, there's food everywhere. We're eating all the time. And they make foods to actually mess with and increase your appetite levels and make you almost addicted, so you lose control and way overeat. And that's part of the brain chemistry, and that certain foods excite the same part of a brain as hard drugs. And so that obviously has an impact on the overeating. But again, going back to the leptin and ghrelin, it's just so important to understand these pieces, to know that you're not crazy, you're not alone. If you feel like you just need to be more disciplined or have more willpower, I don't think that that's what it's about at all. I really believe that it's about learning how to understand your body and why you're having the lack of hunger signals or too much overwhelming hunger signal. And I work with my clients every time we have a call to educate them on these things and help them to understand and explain to them why they're, not hungry and different reasons. And then we start to try different things and make sure they're eating regularly, and they start eating breakfast again. And then they're like, wow, I'm hungry. And then they're like, oh, I've accidentally ate breakfast too late this morning and I felt so hungry. And they're like, I haven't felt hungry for years or months. And so to see that shift happen, usually for most people in a few weeks or a few months is so profound, because then they start to feel more energy and their mental clarity improves and their metabolism improves and the hormones get better. The emotional eating is happening less, because by the time they get to the evening, they're not so famished that they're binging and making poor food choices. So it's really cool to see what happens when we address these issues. So like I said, if you're fasting, you have, you're only having a coffee for breakfast, you're skipping breakfast or skipping meals through the day, this is going to skew your hunger hormones, and it's probably going to lower your body's abilities to properly produce those hunger hormones. And again, that has an impact on the thyroid, the metabolism, and the other hormones. This, for some people though, can fuel, again, binging later on in the day, more cravings. I often find maybe some other physical reasons you may not be hungry is you may have different digestive symptoms. Maybe you're regularly bloated or in pain, or you have stomach discomfort, heartburn, or acid reflux. These physical symptoms could definitely make eating feel really uncomfortable. So I think it's so important to address any of these symptoms that you may be having. Same with people who are only having bowel movements a couple days a week or once a week. You're going to feel a lot fuller because your body's hanging on to so many toxins that ideally I want you to be eliminating on a daily basis. So we need to make sure that your bowels are moving daily and you're eliminating, that leftover food, and you're eliminating those toxins. So that is also really, really, really important. And these are common symptoms, all of these things that I've just mentioned that I support my clients with every day. And, by making lifestyle changes and recommending certain foods, teas, and spices and the odd supplement here or there, and working on the stress and the mindset and overcoming emotional eating, it's just I'm so grateful that I get to witness all these positive changes and transformations in my clients. And trust me when I say a lot of them have been struggling with these symptoms and these struggles for years, some even decades. And to see them, in months and, a year and a half, 2 years, all of a sudden have a completely different body, completely different, optimal health and, positive state of health, a healthy relationship with food, to see the cravings gone, the hunger levels improved, the digestion, balance, the hormones balance, it's so cool, because then they are not so focused and obsessed on a number or restriction anymore. And, when their body feels ready and safe enough, their bodies let go of the protection without the restriction, extreme exercise, or having to be hard on themselves. And I think that building the self-love and the self-worth is just such a vital part of all of that. So another reason that you may not feel hungry is if you have a cold or a flu or nausea and you just don't feel well. And, the body does this on purpose to help you sustain precious energy, to help you support your immune system to fight and get over the cold or flu. So the more we eat when we're sick, especially if we're, having more refined foods, often that will suppress the immune system and prolong your cold or flu, versus if you're eating, really simple, nourishing foods that are easy to digest, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get over the cold or flu and get your appetite level back. So if you are the kind of person who finds you catch a cold or flu and you're sick for weeks or months, this is a huge sign that your immune system, your digestive system, and probably other pieces of your physical and emotional health could definitely use some attention, because we should not be sick for weeks or months. So just as an aside to the immune system, which definitely I'm going to talk more about that coming into fall with cold and flu season coming, and how to support your immune system. I think that just plays a huge role in the appetite levels as well. And then, so I've talked about certain medications, to take purposefully to suppress appetite, which I just don't agree with or believe in, but also certain prescription drugs that you may be taking may have a side effect of reduction of appetite. So it's very important to know if you are on any prescriptions, what your side effects are, so you can understand them, and then you can support your body in other natural ways to hopefully help build those appetite levels up, or the ideal goal, if possible, to get your body to a balanced state of health so you can actually come off of those prescriptions and not be dealing with any of those pesky side effects. Now, I'm not saying you should just go off your prescriptions. I cannot say that, but I'm saying with the proper support and the consent of you and your doctor, like if it's safe and it feels good for you, like it's just so great to come off of anything that is giving you any negative side effects. So that brings me to my last point of easy ways to stabilize hunger. So some steps you can take. First step, get your hormones tested. If you don't know where to start with that, you may want to have a conversation with your doctor, and or again, you may want to reach out to me. I cannot test your hormones, but I can guide you to what to do. And then, we can talk about the symptoms you're having and what I'm observing, and I can make the proper recommendations for you to help to support the thyroid, support your metabolism. There's so many great metabolism boosting foods, even your sleep, your hydration, your relationship with food, mindful movement. So there's so many different things we can do to support your hormones to balance. And I've witnessed so many, again, beautiful women, balance their hormones, including myself. So it's super exciting. Be aware of your emotional state before you eat, because if you're in that fight or flight, if you're overwhelmed, if you are upset, if you're constantly in a state of stress, this is going to impact your appetite levels and those hunger hormones. So check in with yourself before you eat. And if you're in a negative state, take 5 to 10 deep breaths and just slow down and just breathe. I think that's so important. And start blocking off your lunch break. Start taking it. Make sure you eat breakfast. Eat regularly through the day. Have healthy snacks as well. This is going to support your metabolism and those hunger hormones to produce regularly. And if you're going, well, I often just don't have time to prep. It's like, well, dedicate 30 to 60 minutes on a weekend day. Get a healthy grocery delivery service. Get a healthy food prep service if you're able to. Like, there's always ways to make it happen. Your health is so important. You're not much without it. So fueling and nourishing your body well and having healthy food available is just, to me, like one of the most important things. So take some time to prep. Like, I think my boyfriend and I probably spend about an hour, aside from waiting for the rest of it to cook in the oven, to chop and prep like a salad with a ton of veggies. We cook a bunch of protein, roast vegetables. I usually will make like brown rice pasta with like some kind of a, coconut oil and spices kind of sauce or tomato sauce. And then I will prep and usually bake some kind of a healthy muffin or a loaf or energy bites, chop up some veggie bags. And then we always have like hummus and guacamole in the fridge. I always hard boil eggs, but it doesn't take that long. Like it's super simple what I'm doing. And it's so important because it sets us up for healthy eating success through the week. And because we're dedicating that hour, maybe hour and a half at most on Sunday, we have and save about 6 to 8 hours through the week of having to cook that now we get to spending time together, doing other things, getting outside, going for a bike ride while the weather's still good, or just having like a fun, relaxing evening where we don't have to worry about cooking and cleaning up a big mess. So it actually saves a lot of time to be prepared. Chewing your food properly and eating mindfully helps to aid in digestion and proper production of hunger hormones, good bowel movements, good digestive health. So I think it's just so important, again, to slow down, chew your food properly. So huge. It seems so minuscule, but it makes such a massive difference to your digestion, your hormones, and your hunger hormones. If you are struggling with emotional eating, address emotional eating. Get the support you need to help you to overcome emotional eating, to deal with the restriction, diet mentality, the body image and weight insecurities. And if you're denying yourself of nourishment because you feel like you have to lose weight and starvation or restriction is the only way, it's definitely so important to get support to deal with the struggles around the insecurities with the body image and the weight. And if you have certain physical imbalances or symptoms like heartburn, bloating, the slow bowel movements that are interfering with your appetite levels, then again, I just think this is a great opportunity to get the proper support from someone who can really help you investigate why you're having the symptoms you are, understand your whole health picture, and then give you the proper recommendations to help you regulate all of these things. So whether, again, you want to reach out to me or you want to reach out to someone else, I just want you to get the help that you want and need to gain body freedom and have optimal health, because you totally deserve to have it. So I hope you've enjoyed today. Really was excited to prepare this episode because I think so many people struggle with both, the reasons you're hungry and not hungry physically and emotionally. And so make sure if you haven't listened to episode 198 that you do, because that's where I talk about the opposite. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca /podcast/200. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the No Sugarcoating podcast on all podcast apps. You can click the link in the show notes as well. You can listen to all episodes at amberapproved.ca /podcast-archive. That's ARCHIVE. Definitely make sure you check out the new website. There's some new videos for the emotional eating quiz and me sharing about what body freedom is. Again, amberapproved.ca. If you haven't taken the emotional eating quiz, definitely do. And you're definitely going to want to stay tuned because I have, like I said, some really great things coming up that I can't wait to share with you on the podcast exclusively and through my website and social media. So I know I've also been talking about my fall group program. So if you're tired of putting yourself last on your priority list and you're wanting to gain your health back after too much summer indulgence, you want to boost your energy, balance your digestion, kick your cravings to the curb, and start to understand, what's triggering emotional eating, you're definitely going to want to check out more information for my jump into your body freedom group program. This will start early October. It's 8 weeks and it's all online video conferencing. The calls are all recorded. There's a wonderful Facebook group and it's just a great opportunity to share your story and, start to build a healthy relationship with yourself and food with this beautiful community of women that come into the group program. So there are a couple spots left for the 50% off. So if you're wanting to learn more and secure that spot, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Group Program so we can book a 30-minute body freedom call, talk more about your current health struggles and your goals. I can share more information, pricing, and if it feels like a fit, we can secure your spot. So again, that's info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Group Program. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. I have a wonderful guest on the show next week. Her name is Taylor Nolan. Some of you may recognize that name. She's actually been on The Bachelor a couple times, which I didn't even realize when I was a guest on her podcast. I was just sharing about emotional eating, but she's a huge advocate for mental health. And we are going to have a really great conversation around that and addiction and body image, social media pressures, and some other really great things. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And last but not least, I have a really exciting giveaway in celebration of episode 200. So to celebrate, I'm really excited to do an international giveaway and it's super easy to enter. So there's a couple different ways you can enter. You can either leave me a 5-star rating and review about what you are loving and learning from listening to this podcast or how this podcast is helping you with your health journey or relationship with food. And then make sure you email me at nosugarcoatingpodcast@gmail.com to share the name and country that you left the review under. If you've already left a review and 5 stars, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. And instead, you can share about the podcast on your social media, including Instagram or Instagram stories, and tag me, my name, Amber Romaniuk, that's ROMANIUK, again, to share what you've learned or why you love the podcast. So I will keep my eye out on social media as I do get those tags, and then I can add you in to the entry. So the winner will be announced during episode 205. So make sure you enter. And what are you going to win? All my favorite Rocky Mountain Soap Company products, soaps, beautiful day cream, toner, some wonderful, fabulous body wash, my favorite gummies, vitamin gummies, my cookbook, and a surprise. So you'll just have to see what the rest is. So again, you can enter easily, and I look forward to seeing what you have to share. So thank you again for listening today. Remember, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health. So take action now. Have a wonderful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new episode with you next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.